Hi, I'm Beth. Thank you for joining me for this video. This is calming yoga for changing times. So the changing times might be the seasons, the weather, the world, the political climate, whatever the changing times are, we can calm ourselves on the mat with yoga. This practice is going to be mostly on the floor. We'll either be lying or kneeling for the entire practice. We won't be standing up at all, and we will be using a blanket. You can use any kind of blanket. I have mine in a rectangular blanket fold. You could also use a small firm pillow. Our first pose is going to use the blanket and we'll be lying on the floor. So if you have your blanket in a rectangular blanket fold like this, we're going to fold it again. So it's a little bit thicker. You could also roll your blanket or a really thick towel. So we're going to place this toward the top side of your yoga mat, whatever the top is. And where the blanket is going to go behind the shoulder blades, but underneath the tips of the shoulders so that your arms can reach out over the blanket. You'll see as I lie down, I'm scooching a little down on my mat, and as I lie over the blanket, I really want it behind my shoulder blades, behind my rib cage, so more lower behind the shoulder blades. And you see I'm leaning back on my elbows so that that part stays above the blanket. I'm gonna scooch down just a bit. And then as you come out, so now this blanket is pushing up against my ribs to start opening the front of my body, the chest. My arms can come out in a T, or I can have bent elbows in more of a cactus position. And your legs can stay bent so your lower back can be closer to the floor. You want the low back to be comfortable here, or you can stretch both legs out long. It's up to you. The purpose here is we start by allowing ourselves to open up a bit to changing times, changing circumstances. Sometimes we close ourselves in when change happens. So by lying in this little bit of a supported back bend, and that's what this is, sometimes it's called supported fish pose, it opens up the chest. Now I'm looking toward you. Please cast your gaze toward the ceiling so that your neck stays long in the back. And then start to explore the feeling of the breath in the front body as you lie here still. Feel the breath move in and out through your body, and you might even be able to see the rising and falling of my chest with breath. If you're really closed and tight in the front body, this little back bend can feel pretty intense. If it feels too intense to start, take the blanket away or unroll your blanket a little bit so it's not as high. Use a towel. You have a lot of options here. If it feels okay, we're going to stay just for a few more breaths. You don't have to change your breath, simply notice it. Notice as you breathe in, notice the feel of the inhale, where the breath travels in the body. Notice as you exhale, how your belly and your chest softens toward the floor. One more, breathing in, noticing that expanding. And then exhale and release. Okay, so we'll stay on the floor, but we'll come off the blanket roll. Gently roll yourself to the side. That might have been more of a stretch than you thought. So be gentle with yourself as you roll. Take the blanket out of the way. We will use it a bit later. And then come back to lying on your back with your knees bent, your feet up flat on the floor. Arrange yourself as needed. So your arms can be softly resting by your side. Feet are on the floor, knees up, feet are comfortably away from your bottom. We'll start by getting a little bit movement into the lower body, and then we'll move some movement into the upper body. We're really focusing a lot on spinal movements in this class. So to start, press into your feet and lift your lower back, arching it, lifting it away from the ground as you press your tailbone into the ground. You might not be able to see a lot here, but there's a good bit of movement as I'm arching and making space under my back. And then do the opposite of that. Press the low back into the ground, lifting the tailbone a little bit as you do this. It doesn't have to come off the ground, but just lifting it so that the lower back presses into the ground. These are pelvic rocks. We're going to go back and forth here a few times. Now, if you can start to coordinate with the breath, my breath naturally goes in as I press the tailbone down and make space under my back, and it naturally flows out on the exhale as I tuck and press the low back. You can find some coordination, some connection of awareness of mind, body, noticing your body in space. And then one more time, each direction. And then when you're done, try to find a space that's in between those two places. So not pressed, not arched, somewhere in between those two places. And then we'll take it up into a little flowing bridge. It's the same basic movement. We're going to do it a little bit with a hip lift. So arch your back to start, pressing your tailbone down. And as you take the other way, press your low back into the ground, start to push into your feet, lift your hips, and this time do let your hips come off the ground, any amount, they don't have to come high. And then as you exhale, set them back down, or it might be on the inhale, take the little arch into the low back, breathing with your body, push your low back toward the floor, press into your feet, a little bit of air under your hips, your pelvis. And we'll do a few more times like this. If you've been sitting all day, this is a nice, gentle way to start getting movement into these parts of the body that can get really stiff. We'll do two more. Rocking and arching, pressing and lifting. And then last one, rock to arch, press into your feet to lift your hips. And then once again, settle your hips, your pelvis back down. You could do that little bit of a rock back and forth to try to find that in-between place. So that in-between place, there's maybe a tiny bit of space in your low back, but not that arch we did before, just a natural low back curve. That's your lumbar spine. All right, we'll do a little bit of movement for the upper body. And again, you don't need to look at me. Once you get the movement, you can just keep your gaze, keep your chin centered over your chest, your gaze toward the ceiling. So this time we're going to raise our arms right over the shoulders or maybe a little bit wider apart. Imagine that you're reaching up toward the sky, and as you do that, feel the sense of your shoulder blades widening across your back, opening like elevator doors. And then as you release that, press your backs of your shoulders, your shoulder blades into the ground. Think of those elevator doors coming a little bit more together. It might help to widen the arms a little bit as you do this, pushing the shoulder blades underneath you. So this is protracting as we reach and open up the shoulder blades. We widen them on the back. And then as we settle the arms back into the sockets, we retract. Getting some mobility into the upper body, the shoulders. So first we isolate this movement right in the shoulder socket. And then we'll add a little bit more arm movement. So next time you reach up, reach away the same way. And as you come down, bend the elbows a little bit, draw the shoulder blades back, but a little bit of openness in your arms, like you're opening them wide into sort of a ballet arms position. And you can keep them rounded if you like that better as you reach up, widening the shoulder blades on your back, opening and drawing them together. 3 more times. Reach up and widen. And see if you can add some breath coordination on these last 2. I'm going to inhale here. Exhale, reach up, and 1 more. Inhale, open. And exhale, reach up. Okay, stay reaching overhead. 1 last movement for the shoulders. We'll try this with 1 arm at a time, and then we'll try both arms. So take 1 arm, you can start with whatever arm, Begin to slide it back, sliding the arm overhead, or in this case, toward the floor, only to where you feel like your back stays very stable. So if your back starts to arch, that is your further spot. If you can keep your back with that natural curve, so just a little bit of a lumbar curve, then you might take the arm a little bit further. Then come back up to the original point and reach the opposite arm. So go nice and slow so you have the opportunity to observe whether or not your back moves at all. Again, that's using our mindfulness, our mind-body connection to be really aware of what our body is doing. So I can feel that my back is staying pretty still. That might mean I can reach a little further away, only to the extent that it feels good in my shoulder and feels stable in my back. And then I'll bring that arm back up. Now you can try both arms. If this causes too much movement for you in your back, go back to one arm. And just notice how we're sliding the shoulders around, sliding the arms around in the shoulder socket. We'll do two more or one on each side if you're doing one arm at a time. And last one, I'm going to try to take a big breath in as I reach overhead, coordinating the breath with movement. And as I exhale, I reach the arms back up. Okay, you can lower the arms and once again roll to your side, and we will come up now to a kneeling position. Roll to your side. Now, if your floor is a hard surface or you don't have a mat, you can take that blanket and put it right under your knees and use it under your knees for a little extra cushioning. I'm not going to use that today because I don't feel like I need it, but certainly take that if you do. We'll come to a hands and knees position. I'm going to start facing sideways and eventually I'll turn around to face you. So hands come under the shoulders. Your hands are about shoulder width apart, maybe a little bit wider. Fingers are spread nice and wide to provide you with a lot of support, and really press into the knuckles or just underneath the fingers where the fingers insert into your palms so that you're not leaning back too much on your wrists. Knees are under your hips and about hip width. And we'll move through two movements called cat-cow. So you see that right now my back is like a tabletop with the natural curves but relatively flat. We'll do the same move we did on the floor, except this time for our whole back by arching up. So you take the back into a rounded position like an angry cat, pressing into your hands, tucking your tailbone down, trying to lift the middle back toward the sky. And then with your next breath, you reverse that movement, tipping the tailbone up toward the sky, letting your chest, your belly, your heart sink down toward your mat or the floor, and then gazing a little bit forward with the head. And my shoulder blades are pulling together a bit on my back here. Now we can take this really slow, feeling that movement in the spine. Maybe you breathe in when you arch up and round. Exhale when you release, letting your body sink forward. My hands stay in the same position. My arms stay relatively straight the whole time. You can have a little micro bend in your elbows if that's more comfortable. Let's do one more. And round. In the opposite direction, this is actually a little arched. This is your back bend. You feel that a little bit of upper body back bend. Let's do one more just to feel the difference between those two positions. So feel your body rounding and notice what parts are having a little more trouble moving. I mean, for me, you can see I get a lot of movement in my upper back, but I really have to concentrate on letting my lower back move into this. And then as I go forward, as I arch up into the back, my lower back really moves pretty freely, but I have to really concentrate on letting my upper back relax and sink and take that little curve up. All right, then come back to neutral. We'll do one more thing here. This time we're going to move the back laterally. So that means kind of a little side bending action. So I just did a mini one there. take the hip that's closest to me and sort of just wiggle it out to the side like you're wiggling out your tail, and then look over that shoulder toward that hip or toward the feet on that side. You might not see them. You can even kick your feet out a little bit so you can see them, so you know what direction you're going in there. And then the other direction. Take your hip out a little bit to the side. Look over that direction. You can kick your feet out that way if you'd like. One more each side. Looking over one shoulder, taking it hips to the side, a little C curve on the side of our body. And then the other way. All right, next move, we're going to walk the hands in and we'll come up to a standing kneeling position. And here's where I'm going to turn around to face you. So from the standing kneeling position, we are going to do a little bit more of that side body lateral work. And then we're also going to do a little bit of twisting. We haven't yet really done any twisting, and that's another direction that our spine moves in. So you'll take one leg and reach it out to the side. If you're mirroring me, it'd be your right leg. Now your toes can turn toward me. They can turn out. They can point up. Just find a position for this leg that feels pretty comfortable where you can be upright. So you see my body is pretty much over my bent knee. And you can even have this leg a little bit ahead of your hip if that helps your hip stay more toward the forward and again feels comfortable in that leg. You can use your blanket under your knee if you need a little extra cushion. We will take the hands somewhere to the area of the ears, the temples, the side of the head. And we're going to take that little side bending motion, first going toward the extended leg, and a bend in that direction. Go wherever it feels natural, wherever it is, so you start to feel that stretch on the opposite side. Then we'll come back up through center. And as you go to the opposite side, you might find that to prevent tipping over to that side, you've got to press a little bit into this extended leg. So you might not go super far. If you have room to go a little further, you can play around with that. Let's come back up a few more times. First side. Second side. We're really just trying to luxuriate in the movement of our spine right now. Last time, I'm going to breathe in the center. Exhale over the extended leg. Breathe back in center. Exhale over the extended leg. Okay, come back up. You can release your arms for a minute. Take your same arm as extended leg. Rest your arm right on top of that leg. So again, if you're mirroring me, it's your right arm resting on your right leg. Let's take the left hand back to where it was. And so here's where we're going to do a little bit of a twisting motion. Now note that twist in the spine happen around the area of our rib cage. That's our thoracic spine. So that's really where you want to feel the movement. Hands on the leg, elbow is bent. Breathe in and feel the tallness of your spine and your body. And as you exhale, think of that movement happening above the belly button, around the rib cage, as you start to turn your body toward your extended leg. And you can round the back a little bit to come in that direction. You don't need to lead with the shoulder, so don't move the shoulder in that direction. The shoulder doesn't have to go anywhere. The elbow doesn't have to go down far. It's really our torso that we're turning toward the extended leg. Then breathe in, open that back up. And as you open up, you can bring the elbow a little further back and think about lifting the chest a little bit toward the ceiling. Really tiny back bend here. Let's do that 2 more times. Exhale, twist around your spine, reaching your body over the extended leg. Inhale, unwind, breathe into that openness, that width across your front body. And then 1 more. Breathe in and open. And back to front. Release your arm, bring that leg in. Oh wait, don't bring the leg in. Let's try one last little thing. I almost forgot. A little bit of balance, because sometimes balance helps us focus our mind body, and it actually can be really calming when we play around a little bit with balance. So keep your leg extended. Your top hand or your right hand can stay on your leg to start. This time the left hand is going to reach down toward the ceiling. So you might need to slide this leg in a little bit as we start to tip in that direction. Look down to where you're going. Start to slowly reach toward the ground. And you can also be reaching to a block or a pillow. Maybe you come down to fingertips to start. So as I do this, I can sort of feel that seesaw motion in my body, and I can feel that there's no weight on this bottom foot anymore for me. So I can easily lift the bottom foot. If that's not the case for you, keep that foot planted and grounded. Hand can be on your hip, can reach straight up, or you might be able to reach it away. And again, you can see if that foot naturally unweights. If it doesn't, no worries. You're getting plenty of balance work right here. And then one more breath. If you were lifted, you might even try to see if you can lift back up for a moment and then come down. Okay, now we'll switch sides. So come back through to center. We'll take the opposite leg out long. And remember that you can have your toes pointed toward me, toward me, out to the side, leg a little out front. Just find a place where the leg can feel comfortable and your lower body, your pelvis doesn't feel twisted. It feels pretty even toward the front in a comfortable way. Knee is under the hip, and you can absolutely pad the knee if you need to. Okay, we'll take the hands up to the ears or that area, and your hands can certainly stay down for this if your shoulders are uncomfortable or anything is uncomfortable here. We'll tip over the extended leg, finding the place where we start to feel a stretch on the opposite side. Maybe breathing here for a moment. And come back through center and tip to the opposite side, this side, going slowly so we don't tip the whole body over, at least not yet, as we do that. And then 2 more times each side, back over the extended leg. Move to the away direction. One last time. This time I'll breathe in. I'll focus on my breath, breathing in center. Exhaling and reaching. And again, breathing in center. Exhaling and reaching. Come back through center. You can lower your arms, and then your left arm stays on your extended left leg, and your right arm can come back to that place if that felt okay. Here's where we do that twist. Remember, the motion is around the ribcage. So if I was staying upright for the twist, which you absolutely can do, you can see the motion from my belly button up around my ribs and in that direction. So that's another variation if you prefer. We're going to take the little twist with a forward folding movement, almost like a cat-cow movement in our kneeling position. I'm going to breathe in first to be tall. And then as I exhale, I'm really twisting with my torso and then folding toward the extended leg. So my elbow is staying pretty wide. It's only after I get down that maybe I let the upper back round a little more. And then inhale, reach up, reach back with the elbow, and maybe open up a little bit in that direction to a mini back bend. Twice more. One more time, breathe open. Exhale into your twisting motion. And then breathe in and open. One last big open breath. And exhale, bring your hands down. Okay, this time I'll remember to do the balance. So remember, you might need to scoot that leg in a little bit so that you feel more balanced. Hand will start to go toward under your shoulder. So look down to where you're going. Feel yourself. You're going to let yourself tip in that direction this time. Reach the hand for the ground. Now you can stay on fingertips or you can come all the way down. I like to be on fingertips. My arms are not so long. You might like a block or a pillow under your hand. As you put the weight on the hand, maybe you naturally feel that there's just less of a weight on your foot and it's easy to lift it up. You can stay grounded with the foot all the time and just play with the balance of this asymmetrical shape in your body that you've probably maybe never been in unless you've done this in yoga class. And then top hand can stay on your hip. It can reach straight up, or perhaps You reach long, maybe growing longer from toes to tips of your fingers, perhaps a lift of that bottom foot. One more breath wherever this pose is for you today. And if you're in the lifted version of the balance, see if you can lift back up and maybe keep the balance for just a moment. And then come back down. Okay, draw the leg in. We are going to go back to a lying position, but we'll lie on our sides this time. So you can come down to either side. And when you come down, bend both knees up. You can line your shins up with the front of the mat so they're parallel and stacked. And you can put a pillow or a blanket either between the knees or under the knees if this isn't comfortable. Lie down, and my torso is going to face you, and my elbows are going to come to you. So my hands are lightly behind my head, or you can keep them more toward your ears as we did before. This time as we breathe in, we're going to roll onto our back. So you'll roll away from me if you're facing me now and open up the top elbow in that direction. So take a breath in, breathe and roll. Feel that same space that we've been working across the front part of our chest. And then exhale and close back. 2 more times like this. You can also use a little pillow under the head if your head needs a little more support. Last time, and this time we're going to stay open for a few breaths. So breathe in and open. And then exhale here. Try to soften into this little bit of an open twist. Your elbow will probably still be up in the air like mine is. That's fine. One more breath. And then as you exhale, roll back to front. Now you can just flip around and go the other way. I'm going to turn around so I can still face you. Same thing, we'll have the legs stacked. This time the opposite leg will be on top. You'll take the hands in that position behind the head. Elbows toward me, or elbows in that direction if you're facing away from me. And then with the breath in, start to roll back, open up. Explore the twist and the openness across your front body. Exhale, come back. Each time we breathe in and open, again, we're offering that openness to change. We're letting our body flow through the changes that happen on the mat, around us in life. And one more time, and we'll stay. Breathe in and open. And then stay here, seeing if you can allow your breath to maybe soften yourself a bit more into this position. One more breath in. And exhale, roll back to the starting point. If you push yourself up to seated, we are going to come back down to lying, but here's where we're going to get our blanket again. So I still have my blanket in this long or this rolled position. You could keep it like that, but I want it a little bit thicker. So I'm going to kind of double it up a little bit. Now this is another place where, I might even do it one more time, where you might have to figure out where the blanket needs to be for you. You can also use a block or, as I mentioned before, a pillow. This time the blanket is going to support underneath our hips. So before we had it on the higher side of the mat, now it's going to be on the lower part of the mat. I'm actually going to come around so I'm on the other side of it. I'll sit right on the edge here so that when I lie back, the blanket can be right under my sacrum. The sacrum is not at your waistband, it's lower than that, kind of that little bony part at the bottom of your spine. I'm going to roll myself back. And I'll find the spot where you have to adjust a little bit. And again, you can adjust the height of the blanket. I want my ribs, my low ribs, to be able to relax toward the ground. So I'm going to scooch up a little bit more toward my head. And you might find that this blanket height is too high. You can change that as well. What we're looking for is a place where our hips can really soften over the blanket. And once you're in position, it feels really effortless. So that might be a lower place for you. I tuck my ribs again to try to snuggle my ribs a little bit more toward the floor. And then when you find that place for you, you can take your arms out into a low V, into more of a T shape or a cactus. So this is a little bit of a combination of where we started, where you can still have your back open, but now with supporting the hips and giving them a little bit of a lift so the hips come a little bit tiny bit higher than the heart. It's almost some of the properties of a little bit of an inversion, and inversions can be very relaxing on the body. They can help us release. So we can open into the change and we can also release and relax into it. Let's just take a few breaths here. Really let gravity be your friend here. So my feet are not holding my hips in place, just letting my hips be really heavy, my pelvis be really heavy on my prop. Now you can stay here as long as you like. If this is a relaxing place, please stay. Stay for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. This is a great place to rest. And when we're going through change, when we're going through difficulties, we all need time to rest. If you're ready to come off the prop, you can press into your feet just enough so that you can take the prop out to the side. I would recommend that you lay a few minutes without the prop. I'm going to roll to the side so I can come up. All right, so that is our practice for today. This is a practice to help you relax, adjust, calmly face change. Most of my practices are about this length and gentle. If you want to experiment or try a few more, please check them out up here. If you like this, do subscribe to my channel and tell me below what you like, what you want to see more of. I'm happy to try to accommodate. Have a great rest of your day.